guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and baby, let's get into the drama of it all. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Miss Annemarie because it looked like she done got herself into some hot water. So let's get into it. Y'all. So like I said in the intro, Annemarie done got herself all the way caught up professionally, and we're going to talk about it. So on January the 18th, the American Society of Anesthesiologists decided to make a statement, a public statement on their Instagram as well on Twitter about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as it pertains to Annemarie. And if you don't know who Annemarie is the newest Real Housewives of Beverly Hills housewife for this season. She was introduced to us by way of Kyle. She is a nurse anesthetist, and right now her and Sutton have been going at it. A lot of people, myself included, feel like Annemarie's issue with Sutton is put on by Annemarie's association with Kyle. If you didn't know, Kyle and Sutton have been going back and forth, mainly because Sutton has been asking Kyle questions about her change in her lifestyle and kind of prying into Kyle's life. And Kyle can't take it, and she can't stand it. And they were at odds for a while, but now things have kind of like calm down. Well, they introduced Annemarie, and it seems like Annemarie has taken up the mantle of having Kyle's back and going back and forth with Sutton. Her main point of contention has been Sutton's esophagus. So Sutton let the girls know that she has a small esophagus, or a narrowing esophagus. I think it's a small esophagus. She said it was genetic, that her brother actually had it and he got surgery for it. But Annemarie doesn't really believe what Sutton is saying. As well as Sutton lets the ladies know that she also takes gabapentin. I don't know what that medicine is for. I think it might be for like digestive issues. But if I find what it's for, I'll put it on the screen. But Annemarie told Sutton no doctor would say it was okay for you to drink and take gabapentin at the same time. And Sutton is like, well, my doctor says it's okay. Well, on this week's episode, Sutton finally confronts Annemarie because on the week before episode, I want to say, so this week was 12, so I think episode 11, Kyle had a celebration of life for her friend Lorraine, and everybody was invited. Well, at that celebration of life, Annemarie talked about Sutton's narrowing or small esophagus ad nauseum. They actually showed a time lapse kind of thing where she talked about it at 6 something and didn't shut up about it till like around 10 o'clock. So she was sitting around Crystal and Garcelle speaking about it, and they was getting tired, and they was like, why do you care? Why is it that big of a deal? And Annemarie was like, I don't understand. Like, normally when someone has that type of issue, it might be due to an eating disorder. So Crystal was like, an eating disorder? So you trying to say the lady got an eating disorder? And Annemarie's like, no, you said that. And Crystal's like, well, you implied it. So Annemarie's whole thing is like, if you are someone that struggles with bulimia, when you're throwing up the acid that is in your stomach, she is suggesting that if that is what Sutton was doing, that she has scar tissue, because it is acid and your esophagus is smooth tissue, that is like corroded and built up scar tissue around your throat. So like everyone's just like, okay, Annemarie, let it go. But this episode 12, Sutton finally confronted Annemarie, and they were arguing at what's her name, Dorit's charity event. That I'm not going to say the name because I think the name is horrible, and I also don't understand the charity. But they started arguing at the charity. It got out that Crystal said Annemarie lied about being a doctor when she met her 4 months ago. And Annemarie was like, no, like she pretty much was like, she didn't deny it. But she was like, I told you I was a nurse anesthetist. And Crystal was like, girl, no, you didn't. You said you was a doctor. And then they were like, well, why do you care? And she was like, well, my inquisitive mind, I spoke to my colleagues. I looked through all my medical journals, and it's not making sense, Sutton. So the episode ended with Annemarie kind of apologizing, but not really, like giving a half-ass apology. Well, on January the 18th, which I think is Friday, would it be a Friday or a Thursday? Either way, on the 18th, okay, January 18th, the American Society of Anesthesiologists decided to post a statement about what happened or what is happening on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I'm going to read the statement and then I'm going to give you the real reason why I think they came out. Because right now people feel like they're coming out because of what Crystal said. Because in their statement, they did talk about somebody misrepresenting themselves as a doctor. And Crystal said that when she first met Annemarie 4 months ago, before she met the group in like while they're filming, Annemarie told her she was a doctor. So people feel like the only reason why the American Society is coming out is because Crystal said that she said that, and they don't feel like that's right. They also feel like it's kind of shady for them to speak upon a reality show. But honestly, what I think got Annemarie caught up was what she said on the after show. So the statement made by the American Society, well, you know what? I think I'm going to do the reverse. So to me, why I think this happened is what Annemarie said on the after show. So I'm going to play what was said on the after show because that was first, and then we're going to read this statement of what the American Society of Anesthesiologists had to say.
Anesthetist is an RN that practices anesthesia, and an anesthesiologist is an MD that practices anesthesiology. So we do the same practice, we have the same scope of practice, we just get there 2 different paths.
I know the difference, honey.
Our governing body is called the American Association of Nurse Anesthesiologists. You can actually say nurse anesthesiologist. That is an absolutely acceptable title. Sorry that you don't understand my title. I get it. A lot of people don't understand what a nurse anesthetist is. We're working on it. Public campaign coming. But that's not my fault that you don't know what I do. Shout out to all the CRNAs.
So that's what Annemarie had to say. And I think that's ultimately what prompted the society to come out and make this clarification between what an anesthesiologist is and what a nurse anesthetist is. Because you can't say that we get there, like we practice the same scopes of medicine, we just get there 2 different ways. That's not the same thing. And then to say that people don't know what a nurse anesthetist is kind of selling people short because it's in the name. You're a nurse that helps with anesthetizing patients. I feel like a lot of people have critical thinking skills, but this is what they had to say. And so they made 2 statements, one on Instagram and one on Twitter, but I'm going to be reading what was on Twitter. It says, the Real Housewives know a fake. Anesthesiologists are medical doctors with more than 12 years of higher education and up to 16 hours of clinical training. Title misappropriation has no place in healthcare. Hashtag RHOBH. And so the graphic that they put up was basically showing the differences between an anesthesiologist and a nurse anesthetist. So on the left-hand side, it talks about anesthesiologists, and it says, must complete medical school, have 12 to 14 years of higher education, complete 12,000 to 16,000 hours of clinical training focused on anesthesia care, pain control, and responding to complications and emergencies in surgery. And then the last statement was, often spend a year or more in a fellowship program to learn an anesthesiology subspecialty such as cardiac, pediatric, neurologic, obstetrician, and pain management or critical care. So then the other one talks about nurse anesthetists, and it says they do not complete medical school. They have 5 to 7 years of higher education. They complete 2,500 hours of clinical training and focus on anesthesia management and do not participate in subspecialty fellowships. And that's what they had to say. Now, I don't think they are in the wrong for coming out. And why I say that is y'all have to realize out of all of the Real Housewives shows that we have on right now, Beverly Hills is still getting up to 1 million, like 1 million people watching. Like their ratings is in 1 million views compared to everybody else. And I feel like even if this was on a different franchise that doesn't get a million, they still would say something, because I think Annemarie professionally keeps putting her foot in her mouth. Like, you keep pestering Sutton. Now, when it first came out, when that first episode where Annemarie was questioning Sutton, I didn't really have that big of an issue. I was like, girl, why do you care? But I was just like, I mean, if Sutton can question Kyle about what's going on in her life, I think it's okay for someone to question Sutton. But I think where Annemarie lost a lot of people was when they were at the celebration of life for Kyle's friend Lorraine, and you are bringing this up and we're celebrating someone's life. Like, this has nothing to add to the conversation. Why are you and when Garcelle asked Annemarie, well, girl, why do you care? And she was like, well, no, I'm just inquisitive. I just want to know. And then to allude that the lady might have an eating disorder didn't make it any better. Let's talk about Anne-Marie's response to the American Society of Anesthesiologists. So she said this. She says, I don't condone the ASA's defamation campaign. I am a CRNA, a certified registered nurse anesthetist. I am extremely proud of my profession. I will not be accused of title misappropriation because a cast member needed a storyline on a reality TV show. This is my real life and my career. I'm not an anesthesiologist, nor have I ever claimed to be one. I have immense respect for physicians, anesthesiologists, and I ask that the ASA and other anesthesiologists show respect to CRNAs as well. This type of unhealthy discourse only causes friction and professionalism division. Political issues between physicians and anesthesiologists and CRNAs, which explains their current attack on me, the CRNA and the CNRNA profession. Our goal as anesthesia providers should always be working together in order to best serve our patients, not competing with one another. My aim is to educate the public on who CRNAs are and what we do in providing the highest quality of anesthesia care to those we serve. So first of all, I know she typed this in a haste because she got between twice, and instead of saying public, she said pubic. But I feel as though what Crystal said about her saying she said she was a doctor, I think Crystal's telling the truth. Because this statement right here where she's saying physicians, anesthesiologists you're playing word games. When you type in physician, that is like the broader term of like what everyone's doing. No one calls a anesthesiologist a physician anesthesiologist. It's anesthesiologist. If you just like when you see your doctor who works in cardiology, he's a cardiologist. Like you got a gynecologist, ophthalmologist, like. She's playing semantics with words, which leads me to believe that you did say something to the effect of like, you probably said nurse and nurse, like she said in her after show, she said nurse anesthesiologist. I've never heard that term. I've heard of a nurse anesthetist, but I've never heard of nurse anesthesiologist. That doesn't make sense to me. You're a nurse. You're a nurse anesthetist. You're a nurse that specializes in helping anesthetize patients. Just like someone is a physician or a doctor, but they specialize in anesthesiology, so they're an anesthesiologist. You're playing word games, and I believe what Crystal said. I believe that lady said that she was a doctor, and because you can say nurse anesthesiologist, no one says that. No one says that. Okay? And I also feel like it's pretty shady of her to be like, well, not shady, but it's pretty rich for her to be like, someone needed a storyline, where this esophagus storyline is your storyline and it's unprofessional. You needed a storyline. On top of that, it's crazy that she's trying to play, like she talks about the division between nurses and doctors because it's there. We know about it. People write about it. We've seen it in shows. We've seen it on the news. But in my opinion, doctors need good relationships with their nurses, and nurses needs good relationships with their doctors. All in all, they're all working to the common goal, like she stated, is to provide the best care for their patients. But it's funny because Annemarie is trying to lean on to like, they're trying trying to defame me because I'm a certified nurse, a registered nurse anesthetist. No, sis, you put your foot in your mouth and now they're coming to clean it up. And you didn't make yourself look good. I don't even think this has anything to do with Crystal. This has everything to do with what that lady said on that after show, in my opinion. So then she goes on to say, the esophagus storyline was not funny. Watching the show back now, I hate the storyline just as much as everyone else. I would be mad at me too. It was a line of questioning I should have never started, and for that I sincerely apologize. The storyline was unauthentically dragged on for far too long, and I have been dragged through the mud in the process. I just want to highlight the real in reality TV. I honestly think someone, knocked on Annemarie's door and said, girl, you better make it right. Because I feel like the energy from the first thing she posted in her story to this statement about being sorry for what she said, I feel like if she would have led with the first one, it probably would have been okay, but it's you had to come out afterwards, because I think somebody called you and said, no girl, you look crazy. What you said on that after show make you look crazy, and the way you look on the show, you look crazy. You look crazy. Fix it before you lose your job. See, and the thing about it is Annemarie went down the wrong road of focusing too much on her profession. If you think about it, you have Wendy on Real Housewives of Potomac. We know Wendy is a political commentator. She talks about it very briefly. We see her doing things on her own, but she doesn't really, which I wish she would sometimes. She don't use her intellect against the girls in that way. Then you have Nicole. Nicole is the same. Nicole does not give it medical advice on Miami unless the girls ask her, or unless production asks her in her confessionals. She's not just throwing out oh girl, you need to do this, this, and this, because both of them, especially Nicole, is smart enough to know girl, I only need to give medical advice when asked, because I don't want my storyline to be my profession. Same with Wendy. Wendy is trying to diversify what she is. Her storyline isn't that she's a teacher or an educator at Johns Hopkins. Okay, it's her, we get annoyed. It's her doing her books and them candles. But you don't mess with your real income for a reality show when you don't have a consistent, you're not an OG, or you're not you're new to the game. That's where Annemarie messed up, is be girl, you just got here, and you got here in the middle of the season, on episode 7. We don't know you like that, and you're putting your foot in your mouth and you're jeopardizing your real job. And on top of that, girl, you need that job with what's going on with your husband. Like I said on Twitter, girl, don't lose your real job playing these reality TV games. That's all I got to say. Remember to be bravely authentic. Drop down in them comments below and give me your thoughts. Do you agree with what the American Society of Anesthesiologists had to say about what was happening on Beverly Hills as it pertains to Annemarie? Do you think they didn't need to say anything, or do you think they had a right to say something? Also, what do you think about Annemarie's statements? Do you think what she said was okay, or do you think she didn't need to say anything at all? But yeah, that's all I got to say. Let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you heard. Subscribe if you want to hear more. And I'm out, y'all. Peace.